New championships will be unveiled at the greatest wrestling show of the year. Call To Greatness XIV's location to be rumored and released on the show of shows this year. And the Hell in a Cell gets a makeover, all here on Ultimate Showcase Update number 1. Roll the intro. I'm too lazy to edit. Thank you for joining me here for this pilot episode, if you want to call it, of this new series. I'm your host, Zach Hardy, and this is going to be just a random update for all the going-ons and the happenings of Ultimate Showcase Wrestling, the world of, and the product as a whole. Now, to start off the update, we go to the first, big piece of news that relates to Call To Greatness XIII, which takes place on April 29th. If you didn't know, buy your tickets, purchase it on pay-per-view if you haven't already. The God Complex has been without a challenger or opponent, at this point challenger. They've been a dominant force for the past couple of months on Severity roster for the biggest show of the year, and that answer has been confirmed in the form of the Randy Orton, Sheamus, and Big Show of Call To Greatness. Verse 9, Indigo Child and Arrow, of all people, will be challenging the greatest force and most dominant stable in USW today. And that will be, that'll be an interesting thing, but hold your horses, because there's a bigger piece of information to gain from the entirety of that whole thing, and that is it will be an 8-man tag team match, and that may surprise you. You know, verse 9, Indigo Child and Arrow, that's 3 people. Octavian, Ophion, and Artemis, that's 6 people. Where do the other 2 people come from? I'm glad you asked. Those are filled out by Aphrodite, the manager of the God Complex stable, and Alicia Sinclair, who has been being groomed for Prosper in USW for the past couple of years. This means that these will be the first 2 women to compete in USW or any Reece Family Promotion in almost 10 years. Yes, the last time that women competed in a Reece Family Promotion was all the way back in 2009 for Whacked Out Wrestling. That match, was obviously the final because Kyle Reece Sr. lost faith in the women's division, and up until he left the promotion to his son, Kyle Reece Jr., he refused to have a women's division on his programming. Kyle Reece Jr. was obviously very motivated to make a women's division, but I guess now he feels it is the most proper time to let that happen. So this could offer a multitude of different things, a women's division for the future on severity and intensity, or one or the other. After Call To Greatness, it is very interesting to see what goes on from here. Ever since Aphrodite became the manager of the God Complex, people were just kind of counting down the dates, counting down the time until the women's division was kind of settled and established in the company. So this is obviously big news, and one of the many big pieces of information for Call To Greatness XIII that we've gotten so far. Also, for Call To Greatness XIII, confirmed by USW themselves, every championship in the company will be given a makeover at the greatest show of the shows of the year, of the lights, of the shining, of the peoples, and the famous, and the la. Anyway, the point of that is that this is to signal a rebirth of Ultimate Showcase Wrestling, if you would say anything, a new direction for the creative process, and the championships kind of usher in a new era. Now, this doesn't mean just 1 title or 2 titles. This means every single championship on the roster. That's right, the USW Championship, the World Heavyweight Championship, the Blue Belt Championship, the International Championship, the Red Belt Championship, the Global Championship, the USW Tag Team Championships, and the World Tag Team Championships. God, that's a lot of breath that I just wasted. All will be getting a makeover at the greatest wrestling show of the year. That means that we lose out on the hexagonal USW Championship design that we've seen since 2014. We lose out on the World Heavyweight Championship design that we've seen since 2014 that was brought in by Majigeta. This will actually be the 3rd installment of the World Heavyweight Championship belt design. There's also rumors that the Global Championship, which is heavily modeled after the Cruiserweight Championship in the WWE, after all it used to be the Cruiserweight Championship in USW, will be getting a full-on facelift, as well as its counterpart of the Red Belt Championship. The International Championship has been rumored to stay relatively similar, though a lot of features will be tweaked, and the Blue Belt Championship will go from the the legendary double B symbol center plate, and that's just that, to an actual center plate that is, I guess, befitting of the Blue Belt Champion. So this is obviously big news to usher in a new era that USW is trying to parlay into the future of the company, and that is a big deal, especially with the rumors that they will be going further into the continental United States over the next couple of years. Now, another part of information that we wanted to rain down upon Call To Greatness XIII was actually something that, well, had a big thing to do with Call To Greatness XIV. which will be in 2019, and that will be that it has been announced for April 28th, 2019, confirmed that Call to Greatness XIV will be taking place, meaning that the company will at least be around for another year. Now, the rumored locations for Call to Greatness XIV are somewhat surprising. Now, you have the obvious New York, New York, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Boston, Massachusetts, and Hartford, Connecticut, just to name a few that we've seen many years beforehand. Obviously, Newark, New Jersey gets Call to Greatness XIII this year, that they had gotten a Call to Greatness IX in 2014. New York hosted Call to Greatness last year. Pittsburgh has yet to host a Call to Greatness. Hartford has hosted a litany of Call to Greatness shows from 8 to, from 1 to 8, really. And then you have the kind of shocking ones that are a little bit more surprising, though, when you kind of see the realm that USW has been going in the past couple of months and the past couple of years. It's not really surprising. Obviously, you have Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, which is what Call to Greatness XIII was expected to be announced for. You have Chicago, Illinois, USA, which was what Call to Greatness XIV is I guess, heavily favored now to be going to. And London, England, of all places. Yes, USW says, fuck the rest of the United States, let's go overseas. I guess they have an idea in mind, though. It's kind of difficult to expect where they'll be going towards the future. However, that location will be announced midway through Call to Greatness XIII, the show itself. Now, another piece of information about Call to Greatness XIII, because it never ends today, is that the start and finish times for the shows have been confirmed to be starting at, these are Eastern Standard Times, may I remind you, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, making Call to Greatness a 7-hour show. There will be no pre-show, there will be no kickoff show. There will just be kickoff match to main event, a whole 7 fucking hours of professional wrestling, which I honestly, it's USW, I don't mind. I'll be at the show itself anyway, so, yeah, get your tickets, order it on pay-per-view. Next piece of information about Call to Greatness XIII, because really every single piece of information other than about 2 stories are about Call to Greatness XIII. You can kind of forgive me. The matches have been announced for Call to Greatness XIII, or at least a few matches have been confirmed by USW for Call to Greatness XIII, and that is obviously Capital versus YoYo Joe, an onslaught that they had from Emergence a couple of weeks ago, where YoYo Joe turned heel and attacked Capital after the match. Surprisingly enough, we have heard nothing about the Mobocracy's involvement in that match for Call to Greatness XIII. You have Seth and Wyler on the intensity side in a hardcore match of all matches. I hope that will be good, but with the creative decision and the prospect that they've kind of seen over the past couple of weeks, it wouldn't surprise me if it was just forgotten about. And Dwayne Porter versus Tyreke Carver, the obvious rematch for the Blue Belt Championship at the show of all shows. That should be a good match as well. We have more USW Call to Greatness XIII information. Derek Carter has now been rumored to be the favorite to walk out of Call to Greatness as the Key and Case 6 winner. Key and Case, obviously, the Money in the Bank equivalent for USW, giving whatever performer, whatever championship shot they want, not necessarily just for the USW title or the World Heavyweight title, but for the Blue Belt, International, or Global, or Red Belt, or Tag Team title shot, whatever they want, whatever they feel like going for. That offers from the Call to Greatness Key and Case 6 holder. And Derek Carter, it's a little surprising to kind of see that. I don't think he needs the Key and Case, but whatever, he's the favorite in the odds maker's eyes, and yeah, to each his own. Next up for Call to Greatness 13 news, the Hell in a Cell match, which will take place between Zach Hardy and Kyle Reese Jr. for Hardy's career in USW and Kyle Reese Jr.'s general manager position of Wednesday Night Intensity. The Hell in a Cell itself will be remodeled from what we last saw in USW, well, technically WOW, back in 2012. And that was, the regular square Hell in a Cell, though a lot lower than the regular WWE version. And that is rumored that it will be heightened just a little bit from the WOW predecessor, and that the door area will be its own area on the cage. So you will get the square cube itself, and you will get the square, and then you will have the door area that kind of opens as a mouth to the cell to kind of allow for a more inclusive outside area, and a more kind of like, okay, you back me into a wall. At least that's the way I would assume it to be. So yeah, the Hell in a Cell will get remodeled, or at least that's the big piece of news for Call to Greatness 13. Then the other pieces of news that we don't have revolving around Call To Greatness XIII is that we have USW Brimstone, which has been rumored to kind of feature a different name going on later in the years. Or, I'm sorry, later in the months. Obviously, October will host USW's Brimstone pay-per-view for the Severity brand. That is being rumored, or was rumored, to have a new name change going forward. That has been debunked. Brimstone will remain the name for the October pay-per-view, though it is not clear if it will remain a pay-per-view in years going forward. We've seen pay-per-views like Key and Case, Hardcore Heaven, so on and so forth, get dropped over the past couple of years in favor of more names like Velocity and Agony for Severity and Intensity, respectively, to kind of just usher in a whole complete set for pay-per-views going forward. So it wouldn't be surprising if Brimstone was dropped in years future, but they're going to keep it for October's Severity pay-per-view. And the final piece of information that we have on Ultimate Showcase update number 1 is that Warzone 3 will officially be an Intensity versus Severity pay-per-view. Now, obviously, we had last year it be the kind of culmination between the losers would get shifted to the next brand, as in Zach Hardy beat Morbid at Warzone 2, therefore Morbid had to go from the Intensity brand to the Severity brand. It's essentially the losers would be banished to the other brand, which is kind of a weird way of establishing the other brand's performers, but hell, why the fuck not? So Warzone 2 was obviously kind of like USW's draft to kind of shift up the different rosters and give them new face. The year before that was kind of an Intensity versus Severity feud, but not to the fullest extent. This year at Warzone 3, it'll be treated like Survivor Series was last year for the WWE, in which Intensity and Severity performers will fight against each other, champion versus champion, to kind of add up the numbers and see which is the better show. My money is on Intensity just because I'm signed to the goddamn show. With that being said, Ultimate Showcase update number 1 concludes with that piece of information. What do you know about the information? What do you think about the information? Leave them in the comments below, and I will get to every single one of them within the next week. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, and subscribe for more. I am Zach Hardy, and I will now go drown my liver and a shit ton of alcohol, Jim Beam, and Jack Daniels. Adios. Signing off.